soldier. With a flintlock blaster in one hand, capable of delivering precise shots with the power of 1,000 musket balls, and a lightsaber forged from the ancient Liberty crystals, Washington was the beacon of hope in the darkness that covered the 13 colonies. And then there was Benjamin Franklin, the Yoda of the Revolution. Wise, cunning, and always a few steps ahead, Franklin's mind was sharper than his lightsaber, which he personally modified to discharge bolts of lightning, perfect for frying any redcoat Sith foolish enough to cross his path. But the colonial Jedi were not without opposition. The redcoat Sith, led by the Dark Lord Cornwallis, had crossed the Atlantic, bringing with them the dark side of taxation without representation. Their red lightsabers blazed like the very flames of oppression, ready to extinguish the light of liberty forever. The battles were fierce, and the stakes higher than the price of tea in Boston Harbor. At Bunker Hill, the colonial Jedi held their ground, their flintlock blasters firing energy bolts that could punch through the toughest redcoat armor. With each pull of the trigger, a burst of light and smoke, a fusion of the old and the new. And who could forget Thomas Jefferson, the Jedi Knight who penned the Declaration of Independence with one hand while wielding his lightsaber with the other? It was he who gave voice to the rebellion, declaring that all men are created equal, with the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or, in this case, the right to take down a few Sith Lords. The final battle came at Yorktown, where the forces of light and dark met in a cataclysmic struggle. Washington and Cornwallis, Jedi and Sith, fought with the full might of the Force behind them. Flintlock blasters cracked through the air like thunder, while lightsabers sliced through the gloom, each swing a testament to the fight for freedom. And when the dust settled, it was the colonial Jedi who stood victorious. Cornwallis defeated, surrendered, and the force of liberty triumphed over tyranny. The Sith were driven back across the sea, and a new hope was born, a republic where the force of freedom would reign supreme. But the story does not end there. Knowing that the dark side could rise again, the Founding Fathers, in their final moments, channeled all their power, their wisdom, and their hope for the future into one single powerful crystal, a crystal of liberty. They knew that one day the force of liberty would need a new champion, someone worthy to wield this ancient power and restore balance when the force of freedom was once again threatened. For generations, the crystal lay hidden, its power waiting for the right moment, the right person to awaken it. And then, one fateful day, it was discovered by a man named Austin Peterson, a libertarian, a modern-day freedom fighter who would fulfill the destiny set in motion centuries before. The crystal called to him, and with it, Austin took up the mantle of the colonial Jedi, determined to bring balance back to the force of liberty in the United States. Through his show, the Wake Up America show, Austin Peterson became the voice of resistance, the spark of rebellion against the creeping darkness of tyranny. With the power of the Founding Fathers' crystal, he fights not with lightsabers or blasters, but with the force of truth, reason, and unwavering dedication to the principle.
Hey, good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. And yes, we are now official. The 4 Liberty Network is announced and launched coming October the 15th. The Wake Up America show will have a lineup of 3 shows, 2 brand new programs, podcasts, coming at you starting October 15th and 17th. And then every Tuesday and Thursday, you've got 2 great new shows to watch, as well as the Wake Up America show live shows. 3 new live shows thanks to the support and generosity of viewers and listeners just like you. Thank you to everyone in the chats who has helped to make that happen with your Rumble rants. You've unlocked bonus content for 3 months. You've been extremely generous to my family, even so far as heading on over to our Amazon registry for the new baby Hazel Rose. Thank you, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing the growth of not only our Liberty Network, but our Liberty family here. And most of the people who join us here feel like family. I just can't say thank you enough for helping us to get to where we are today. We've got so much exciting stuff going on. It's going to be hard to fit it all in 2 hours this morning, but we are going to try because we have 3 incredible, well, actually, 4 incredible guests on the show today. 4 guests? How are you going to do 4 guests, AP? It's a live show. Is your producer working overtime? Yes, he is. It's me. Yes, I am. A lot of the screen. Phil Kerpen from America's Commitment will be joining us today to talk at 7:30 a.m. Central Time to talk about Kamala Harris wants to take all of the credit for all of the good things that happened under the Biden administration, which it's kind of a long, kind of a short list,
I can first.
while having no responsibility for any of the bad things that happened underneath the Biden administration.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
Hey, calm down there, Mr. President. We're going to talk to Phil Kerpen about that at 7:30 a.m. But first, cancel Netflix. 100% of donations from Netflix employees, 100% go to Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Yes, thank you, Norm. It does. We're going to talk about that this morning, as well as a new Wall Street Journal post that just dropped this morning. Americans are more reliant than ever on government aid. Get off the teat, I tell you. I know it's your money. They took it, and I need it now, right? I got a new cash settlement, and I need taxes now. Call the IRS. 867, take your cash now. 867, steal your cash now. An aging population and economic distress. That's what happens when you improv. It's not always amazing. An aging population and economic distress raise dependence on federal and state support, and then they break down why that matters for the 2024 election. God, I hope I can get to it. There's so much interesting stuff going on. And John Miltimore joins us this morning for Mondays with Miltimore, per usual, right? Oh my God, there's so much going on. At 8 o'clock, we're going to speak to John Miltimore about this new article in the Wall Street Journal. You could tell I'm a Wall Street Journal guy. There's not too many mainstream media organizations that don't outright detest free market capitalism. The Wall Street Journal is one of those. In Spanish, parents call it encaminado, making sure your children are on the path to an independent adulthood. But according to this new article, America's young men are falling even further behind. Men in their 20s and 30s are much more likely than female peers to live with their parents, and many say they feel aimless and isolated. We'll speak to John Miltimore this morning at 8 o'clock. We're going to have a great conversation with him. So don't forget to click the like button and follow the stream. It's your first time here today. You're going to love these conversations. At 8:30 a.m. Central Time, I'm going to speak to the boys. The boys. That's what I'm calling them, the boys. With the Superhero Killers TV show on Amazon Prime, which it's okay. At this point, I know Jeff Bezos is not like, a friend to the right necessarily, but he does wait a minute, he's the Washington Post. I guess he does Amazon. So there are some things we have to thank Jeff Bezos for, but at 8:30 a.m. Central Time today, we're going to speak to the Liberty Tonight boys, not the boys from Amazon Prime, but the boys from Liberty Tonight. King Libertarian and Brian Piotr come on to talk about the announcement of the launch of the For Liberty Network. The two new shows starting October 15th with Culturama. Culturama is Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. So make sure you set a calendar appointment. You can follow their Rumble channel at rumble.com/Culturama. And the Liberty Tonight boys, who will be joining us again at 8:30 a.m., are going to be doing a show Thursday nights from 9 to 11 p.m. So after you're done watching Culturama, you go right over to Liberty Tonight. So Thursday nights, there's a lot of must-watch podcasting live. Again, these are not just pre-recorded shows that they produce. And guys, I have been seeing the previews of what we've been working on behind the scenes, and I'll tell you what, you guys are really in for something special. And to think we've still got a couple more weeks to polish. I'm so excited to share with you these new shows that I'm executive producing and these new talents that I have been grooming, not in the bad way, not in the, way,
God!
but in the good way.
No, God, please, no.
We're very excited to share with you the new shows that are coming to this network. If you haven't seen the trailer yet, it is in the commercials today. So keep an eye out for the new Culturama commercial, and I'll have a new Liberty Tonight commercial. And God, you guys, it's announcements, right? What a wonderful way to start the day. Everybody, you asked for it. You demanded it. You've got it. Now new coffee pods at forlibertyshop.com. Austin, what are you saying? You've been asking for years. You want the Founding Flavors coffee pods. That's a terrible screen to show right there. Why did I thought that I set this up. Give me 2 seconds here. So embarrassing. That's why. I accidentally closed the tab there earlier. There we go. Founding Flavors coffee pods. You wanted your delicious Founding Flavors in pods. They're here. There you go. Founding Flavors coffee pods. There you go. Founding Flavors coffee pods comes now in one flavor, but we will have 2 more by the end of the week. Founding Flavors coffee pods now has your, which I think is the most delicious medium roast we have. Franklin's Electric Elixir, now available, now in the shop. Prices include delivery. There you go, at forlibertyshop.com. Look, it's Liz. Yes, K-Cups. There you go. You get 12 in a box. I couldn't be more excited. I worked my butt off this weekend to get it for you, and you've got them. There you go. So now you can help support the For Liberty Network by heading on over to forlibertyshop.com and getting yourself some delicious K-Cups. John Kerry had some thoughts and opinions to share with us about the First Amendment over the weekend.
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue.
Yeah, they don't like too much open conversation because they want to build, they don't build consensus, they demand consensus, and they manufacture consensus, which is another topic entirely. We'll get to that later. Oh my God, Austin, can you please?
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our...
Look, it's Liz is asking about the coffee. She says not flavored is coming. Yeah, it's not flavored. It's just medium roast, FYI. It has hints of those flavors that are natural if you have a distinguished palate to pick up the notes of caramel and hazelnut, but it's not flavored coffee, FYI.
Problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, you know, there's no,
it's really
the referees, we just...
Good. We don't want to be or need to be governed.
To determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact, that kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go, and that people self-select where they go for their news or for their information.
And they self-select where they go for their information? Oh my God, no. No, you can't have people self-selecting. If people are free to self-select, then they'll make the wrong decisions. We need to make the decisions for them of where they get their media and their press and what they're saying to one another. Isn't that exactly right? It's funny, I don't think he even kind of understands the implications of what it is that he's saying on some level. In some ways, they don't really know how they come off. This is why I think they're terrified, because we're winning the war, the culture wars over these lizard people, is because they are so oblivious. They have been so pampered and so sequestered from normal, polite society, from regular working class folks, that they don't even know how they come off anymore. I mean, this guy sounds like some retarded, inbred Austrian archduke. Do you know what I mean? If he had the accent, it would be everything. Oh, yes, they might actually self-select if they have the right to speak to one another without oversight. This is how democracy works. We must build consensus. And when we don't get a consensus that we want, we manufacture a consensus. You know what I mean?
Where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle.
It's a weird show,
really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick, and has an agenda, and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just.
They want to be able to spread misinformation. They want to be able to lie and to they want to set up their own conspiracies, their blue anon conspiracy theories. They want to be able to do everything they can to propagandize us without us being able to have any response. Right? Remember the Associated Press, Reuters, ABC, NBC, CBS, all the mainstream media news organizations they're all propaganda outlets, all of them, right? Without question, there is no outlet that doesn't have an agenda. They all have an agenda. And we saw this with the ABC News debate with David Muir fact-checking Donald Trump in real time and asking softball questions for Kamala. They just hide their agenda better than others, right? They're liars. And the fact that when they talk about gridlock and it's hard to govern and the First Amendment stands in the way of our ability to implement change and all this stuff, they mean it. They mean to eviscerate our American Republican traditions.
Hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change.
If we don't win enough votes, we're going to steal enough votes. You know what I'm saying?
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
It does sound like some commie gobbledygook. Boy, I miss Norm Macdonald. If you are enjoying the Wake Up America show today, right now is when you should hit that like button. I see many of you are just filing in now. Welcome to the show. We've got some really exciting stuff happening today. I thought that when we announced that we were going to have what you call K-Cups, but they're the coffee pods in founding flavors, that you guys were going to be, it was going to be the biggest announcement of the day. And it is a big announcement, but it kind of pales in comparison to the launch of the For Liberty Network. It's today. Today's the day we announced the launch, and the shows will begin on October the 15th. Culturama, 7 to 9. Thursday, 7 to 9, and then 9 to 11 on Thursdays, Liberty Tonight, starring Brian Piotr and the King Libertarian, who will be joining us today at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. If you'd like to help support the For Liberty Network, then head to forlibertynetwork.com. That's our locals page. Hey, thank you to Rumble and Locals for helping us to house our content and to get it in front of a wide audience. We're so grateful to Dylan Abad and Suraj Hashmi and Chris Pavlovsky over at rumble.com, who have done huge favors to the Wake Up America show to expand from not just this 5-day-a-week talk show, but a full-blown Liberty Network with 3 premiere shows coming this October the 15th. It's so exciting. I've got bonus content for you today to unlock. Go buy a box of our new Founding Flavors coffee pods. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Throw a box in there to show your support and solidarity with the For Liberty Network, and that helps to unlock today's bonus content, so you get a little something back. Wow, there's just so much going on. I don't know how I'm going to fill this show with all of it. I've got a million billion clips. I've got a million billion articles to share. What do you guys want to hear next? Send me a text. 573-319-1586 is the text line. You can send me your congratulations. Again, the text line is 573-319-1586 if you guys would like to have your voices heard on the new For Liberty Network. What are you most excited for? I really want to know what you guys think about what you're seeing, and I'd love your feedback. You are the ones who made it happen, by the way. Sign of Jonah, thank you very much. Frank and Beans, thank you. Congrats on the new shows. Have a great week. Thanks, guys. That's $30 raised towards the $60 total of our needs to hit that $60 total, unlock the bonus content. We appreciate you guys very much. The new show stars, 2 of them will be on today. Jordan and the king of all libertarians, and Brian Piotr will be joining us at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. And we've got about 12 minutes until Phil Kerpen comes on to talk to us a little bit about the economy, Kamala Harris, how much of it Kamala Harris can take credit for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. God, we're having so much fun this morning. Netflix, Cancellations, Where's the story? There it is. Say goodbye to another tough week in Hollywood. Disney cut about 300 jobs, writes Bloomberg. Paramount implemented its second round of layoffs in the last few weeks. And John Malone, the godfather of cable, said streaming is a crappy business. Well, things are likely to get worse before they get better. The long-term outlook for the entertainment business is still quite bright. Like, I don't know, the For Liberty Podcast Network, huh? Anybody? Huh? Culturama, huh? Liberty Tonight? But it was revealed that a spike in Netflix cancellations happened after Reed Hastings donated to Kamala Harris. Netflix suffered a surge in cancellations in the days after its co-founder and chairman, Reed Hastings, endorsed Kamala Harris for president and donated millions to her campaign. The rate of cancellations, which is called churn in industry parlance, nearly tripled in the United States after his endorsement. Good job, guys. Customers in the U.S. canceled Netflix at a higher rate in July, 2.8%, than any month since February. And this is largely due to the company's decision to phase out its basic tier. Basic was the cheapest advertising-free version of Netflix, but that the 5-day period after Hastings' endorsement was unusual, even for July. Hastings has been a longtime Democratic donor. He's endorsed Harris in a post on the social media platform X on July 22nd. I love that they go to X to do things like this. A day later, Hastings said that he donated $7 million to a pro-Harris super PAC. Shortly after the announcement, fans of Donald Trump began urging people to drop the service. Some posted photos showing they'd just closed their accounts alongside the hashtag cancel Netflix. 3 days later, after the donation became public, July 26th was the single worst day for Netflix cancellations this year. There you go. Conservatives showing their social power, and certainly it's time for us to do things to make little sacrifices like these in our quest to restore our rights. When you hear words like what John Kerry was saying about the First Amendment being an impediment to their plans, and that they want to win enough votes, and that they want to manufacture consensus, essentially, and that the First Amendment stands in their way, that's a warning sign. They're telling you what they're doing. And if canceling Netflix is the kind of sacrifice that needs to be made to protect our children's futures, well, that might be what needs to be done, and more boycotts like what we did to Bud Light. That was actually pretty hairy and awesome. Dylan Mulvaney. Quite hairless, actually. We'll talk all about all of these things this morning, of course, as well as part of the cultural rot with John Miltimore at 8 a.m. Central Time. I'm excited to hear John Miltimore's take on the news of the day, and specifically why he thinks American young men are still falling behind. We're glad to have all of our guests joining us live this morning. If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, subscribe, hit that follow button over on rumble.com. And if you're joining us over on X this morning, good morning. Fans of Elon. We've got such great content for you today and amazing guests. I saw this video from the Italian president, Giorgia Meloni, who has made just an unbelievable impression on me when she was attacked by Macron of France. He started a fight that I think he wasn't ready for. I will translate this from the Italian into the English so that the audio version later won't sound too out of whack. Take a listen.
Si chiama franco CFA. È la moneta coloniale. Si chiama franco CFA.
This is called the CFA franc. It is the colonial currency that France prints for 14 African nations, to which it applies seigniorage, and by virtue of which it exploits the resources of these nations. This is a child who works in a mine in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is one of the poorest nations in the world. France prints colonial money for Burkina Faso, which has gold. In return, they demand that 50% of everything that Burkina Faso exports ends up in the coffers of the French treasury. In return, they demand that the gold that this child goes down a tunnel to extract mostly ends up in the coffers of the French state. So the solution is not to take the Africans and bring them to Europe. The solution is to free Africa from certain Europeans who exploit it and allow these people to live off what they have. Damn. Now, I could quibble with some of that from an economic point of view, but I won't, because I love seeing Macron get owned. That is Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of d'Italia. Grazie, molto bene. You got to give it up. Thank you to Frank and Beans for that $10 donation. Says Disney needs to be smacked with Franks and grow some beans.
I can first.
I don't know about that one. The Wake Up America show is brought to you by viewers and listeners like you, the For Liberty Network. Thank you, Frank and Beans. We've raised $40 towards the $60 goal, which means that our next guest, Phil Kerpin, will be joining us live, but you're going to watch some commercials first. But if we raise $20 more by the end of the show, all somebody has to do is go buy some of our new Founding Flavors coffee pods over at forlibertyshop.com during the commercial, and you'll unlock the bonus content today. We'll be right back with Phil Kerpin on the State of the American Economy on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. On mine.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state! Reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Unlocking today's bonus content on the Wake Up America show. Your financial contributions have aided in the launch of a brand new Liberty Network aimed at growing the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty in the United States. Today's bonus content asks, how much would an American-made toaster actually cost? Imagine walking into Home Depot to buy a toaster for $30. That's a typical price for an efficient, globally manufactured kitchen appliance, accessible to most Americans. It's a testament to modern trade efficiencies. In a recent article, Orrin Cass argues for American-made goods, suggesting a slight price increase could benefit domestic workers. He proposes that a $32 American-made toaster would be a small price to pay for supporting local jobs and communities. However, Cass's argument is flawed. A mere 10% tariff on foreign toasters would only raise the price to $33, a minimal change. But Cass's vision assumes domestic manufacturers can match this price, which is unrealistic. Cass's hypothetical $32 toaster doesn't account for the complexities of redesigning supply chains for American production. In reality, American-made toasters would cost significantly more. Ed Gresser, an expert in trade, estimates the real cost at over $250 based on prices from other wealthy countries. Gresser's analysis reveals that producing toasters in high-income countries results in prices about 10 times higher than what American consumers currently pay. He highlights the economic impact such a shift would have on family budgets and the broader economy. Cass's essay is filled with economic fallacies, as further critiqued by Dominic Pino in National Review. The real question is whether America would benefit from a basic appliance becoming prohibitively expensive. Cass envisions benefits for American workers and firms, but this ignores the consumer base. In reality, the higher costs would burden consumers far more than any potential gains for domestic workers. When consumers clock out, they become part of the market affected by these price hikes. Most people wouldn't pay $300 for a toaster, when a $30 alternative works just as well. A recent poll by the Cato Institute illustrates this. While 62% initially supported a tariff on imported jeans to boost local jobs, that support plummeted when they learned it would raise prices by just $10. Imagine the outcry if prices increased tenfold, as would be the case for toasters. Cass and Sen J.D. Vance, who support similar ideas, likely recognize that the real numbers are unpalatable to most people. In conclusion, while the idea of supporting American manufacturing through slightly higher prices seems noble, the reality would be economically detrimental. Global trade efficiencies provide affordable goods, benefiting the majority of consumers.
Tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama!
Not so far away, but a couple of centuries ago, a great struggle unfolded. A time of turmoil where the force of freedom clashed against the oppressive grip of tyranny. This is the story of the Founding Fathers, the brave Jedi of the colonies, who dared to defy the dark side of the Redcoat Sith. Master George Washington, leader of the colonial Jedi, was no ordinary soldier. With a flintlock blaster in one hand, capable of delivering precise shots with the power of 1,000 musket balls, and a lightsaber forged from the ancient Liberty crystals, Washington...
Fuck Macron, fuck all globalists, fuck all these motherfucking globalists. They're trying to push a political and corrupt agenda. If you want about politics and economy, I advise you, read Why Democracy, the God that failed us. Hans Hermann Hoppe, and I hope you understand that democracy is a fallacy. Democracy is not the real government. So please read Hans Hoppe and understand why the world is going crazy like that today. Thank you so much, French. Fuck Macron, fuck all globalists, fuck all these motherfucking globalists.
Yeah, screw Macron, screw all globalists. Democracy is not a legitimate form of government, says a UFC fighter. You don't really expect to hear a UFC fighter shouting out Ludwig von Mises and Hans Hermann Hoppe and talking about the finer points of Austrian economics after he gets done winning a fight. But hey, I'm all for it. But economics is really not my bag, baby. I'm just Austin Peterson, like Austin Powers, and I like to keep things groovy, as you noted from the type of shirts that I'm wearing. It's more 1980s than 1960s, but whenever I have to talk about such big brain subjects, I need somebody with a big brain, 10 times bigger than mine, but his heart grew 10 times smaller every time Kamala Harris took credit for something she didn't do. Good morning, Phil Kerpen. Nice to see you again today, brother. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show.
Hey, good morning, Austin. I was just thinking this morning how much better off we would be if you had won that presidential election.
Well, you know, you would have all of the brashness and boldness of Trump, but we wouldn't be talking so much about tariffs. We'd be talking more about like using Javier Milei's influence to create a sort of a hemispheric common trade market, and we would move trade away from China, away from India, and towards South America and towards Javier Milei, and then I think things would be better off. But
wasn't his UN speech phenomenal?
Oh my God. And the World Economic Forum speech from earlier the year or last year, it was so amazing. He's just tearing it up down there. And he's showing that the ideas that people like you and I have been espousing for years, like from like before Tea Party days, that they do work. If you actually cut government, you can grow your economy.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think in particular, what's happened with rent control in Buenos Aires is just an unbelievable story because he came in, he said, we're ending all the rent control laws. And they said, oh, everyone's going to be out on the street. This is going to be the end of the world. How can you hate everyone so much? And all the landlords that were holding their apartments off the market put them back on the market because they could actually get a return on them. And rents are actually down. and inventories are up dramatically. I think inventories are up 150% and rents are now down 40% since he deregulated.
Yeah, the funny thing too is that like that model for the rent, like a socialist or maybe like a neoliberal, right, like more of a Hillary Clinton type might say, oh, well, yeah, you could see how it works there, but those principles don't apply everywhere else in the economy, right? We can't allow privatization like he's talking about right now with the airline industry. He's talking about deregulating getting rid of the state socialist airline industry in Argentina. Can you imagine if we deregulated the airline industry here in the United States? It'd be like what we did when we deregulated the beer industry, and all of a sudden we have all these new craft beers. Imagine all the craft airlines that could come up, you know?
Well, we did have airline deregulation in the 70s. I mean, this is one of the great deregulation success stories. We had trucking deregulation, we had airline deregulation, we deregulated oil prices, which then plunged. And so, we have a lot of experience actually in our own country that we seem to have forgotten with the current crowd of unfortunately both parties to varying extents in terms of price controls.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter was surprisingly libertarian in some ways that I'm uncomfortable talking about when I go to my
He had some
Republican
smart people
meetings.
doing regulatory policy anyway. I don't know how much of it was himself.
Right. But I get uncomfortable whenever I'm like giving lectures about what happened in the 1970s with the deregulation of the airline industries, and it's like Jimmy Carter may have been one of the most libertarian presidents we've had. It's like, but I don't care about the letter after your name. What I care about are the ideas, Phil. And Kamala Harris has got a lot of ideas for our economy, and she says Donald Trump has no plan. She's got lots of plans. But what's fascinating is that when it comes to her plans, they sound curiously a lot like Bidenomics, but she's not responsible for how the economy is. We have to elect Kamala Harris to find out what's in it, because even though she takes credit for all the good things that happen, she hasn't been responsible for all the bad things that have happened. She's Schrodinger's Kamala.
Yeah, this is, I think, her best political asset is that she's got a little bit of that Obama magic of sort of, I can be whatever you want me to be. And my actual record and my actual positions don't matter because my positions are whatever you want them to be. And what they were yesterday has nothing to do with what they are today. And I can be different things to different people and different audiences. And, I find this infuriating as a substantive person who wants to, I mean, my view is that her policies are probably what she said they were in 2019 and 2020 when they were very far left and very radical. But of course, she's disowned everything she ever said and did on that campaign. And, what they're going with, and they're saying in the media, it's kind of incredible. They're saying, that was just a crazy time. And everyone in the Democratic Party was swept up in the Black Lives Matter and the all the DEI and the crazy leftism. And, she only said she wanted taxpayer-funded sex change operations for detained illegal immigrant criminals because that was how 2020 was. That was the spirit of the times. And, that's not, we can ignore that now. And so that's kind of what they're going with. I tend to think that, the kind of person that gets caught up in a mania, like what gripped the left in 2020, is not the kind of person I want in charge because they can be easily swayed to insane and destructive things, even if they're not presently fully under that sway for their own political reasons. So I think it's still very telling that someone would advocate things like that, even if they later try to distance themselves from it. But you're right. I mean, she's trying to pull off this kind of, you decide what you want me to be and then vote for me. And I can be all things to all people. And, Obama won twice using that tactic. And so if you can pull it off, there's nothing better than everyone thinking you agree with them, no matter what they believe.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's if we're going to use quantum mechanics here, we're looking into the future and what could have been, right? Based on what we're looking in the past. If Austin had won, let's look into the future, right? Two possibilities exist. The Kamala Harris presidency is Schrodinger's cat in the box. We're waiting to find out if it's alive or if it's dead. Let's hope that this November, that when the ballots come in, that the box was properly sealed like the ballot boxes, and then we open them up and we find out that Kamala Harris's campaign is well and truly dead. Not nearly dead, but clearly dead. It's the Wake Up America show. I'm speaking to Phil Kerpen right now. He's the president of American Commitment. They're a 501c4 organization, which he founded in 2012, the height of the Tea Party era. Phil talks to us about numbers. With the Fed poised to lower interest rates, relatively steady employment numbers, and easing inflation. I thought they did drop it like a half point or something, but they're like teasing out more cuts. Yeah. Like, is the Federal Reserve kind of like, are they carrying water for Kamala Harris right now? Like, my wife went to Sam's Club to get gas yesterday, and she's like, I'm voting for Kamala Harris if we get these gas prices like this. Right. What's happening?
Hey, it starts with a 2, so I'm voting Democrat.
Yeah, right. So what's happening with the economy right now, Phil?
Well, I think it's very important to understand the motivation for the Fed going for that 50 basis point cut and signaling 2 more cuts this year. They're doing that not because we really have an all clear sign on inflation. It has moderated significantly. It's moderated significantly in my view, because we now have some gridlock in Congress, which is always good for spending less money. We got that Republican House with a Democrat Senate and president, and now the $7 trillion budget doesn't fly through. Instead of a lot of it gets stopped. Now, not nearly as much of it gets stopped as you and I would like. But that huge increase that we had with all the crazy stuff, in the aftermath of COVID and using COVID as an excuse, the American Rescue Plan, the backwardsly named Inflation Reduction Act, we didn't get anything like that since Republicans took over the House. And I think that's why we've seen inflation go from 7-8% to, 2.5-3%. That said, we still have a little bit of a mixed inflation outlook. The gold price has gone up a lot. It's $2,600 an ounce. You look at the various metrics of inflation. I think I probably would have cut a quarter point. I think that it probably was time to cut. But I think that there is enough concern. There's enough sort of mixed messages in the inflation indicators that I would not have done the 50 basis points that they did. And I think that the reason they went with the bigger cut and signaling more cuts is because of economic weakness. And the unemployment rate is at 4.2 right now, which seems good. And in a vacuum, that is pretty good. But remember, it was 3.5 a year ago. And so we've now had a substantial rise in the unemployment rate. And usually, once it starts rising, it keeps rising. And that's my concern, is that we could be on the front end of a recession. And I think that's really the Fed's concern also, is that we could be on the front end of a recession. We're starting to see softening in the employment market. And so their thinking is, flood the zone with cash again, expand the balance sheet, slash the interest rates, and we'll avoid a recession. We'll pump everything up and it'll be great. And, usually when the Fed tries to do that, it fails. We still get the recession anyway. The idea that they're the mastermind geniuses that can micromanage the economy, it doesn't really work. So I think if we are on the front end of a recession, we're probably going to get one anyway. And what I'm really concerned about, Austin, is they're going to aggressively cut rates, start expanding the balance sheet again. The economy's softening, unemployment's rising. If we get no spending discipline, then inflation's going to roar back also, and we're going to have that most dreaded scenario of stagflation. We're going to have a weak economy, and we're going to have prices rising again. And I tell you, you look at what Congress is doing. They punted spending. They did a short-term spending bill to December 20th. Let me tell you, nothing good happens in late December when they're trying to leave for Christmas. And so I really fear we're going to get another massive, grotesque omnibus stuffed with spending that nobody's read and nobody knows anything about, and they're going to vote for it to go home. And that could be the prelude, depending on how the elections turn out, to another orgy of spending, another ratchet up in spending again next year, especially if we have undivided Democratic control, and to a lesser extent, if we have undivided Republican control. Divided usually works the best on spending. And so, look, if we've got them off to the races on spending again, the Fed's going to have no choice but to monetize most of that additional debt for the additional spending, just like we saw during COVID. And you're going to get high inflation again on top of a softening economy. So I think the Fed did this mostly out of panic because they fear that we could be on the front end of a recession. They're big on an indicator named for a Federal Reserve economist named Claudia Sahm, called the Sahm recession indicator. And based on that indicator, we're already in recession. We're on the front end of it based on that rise in the unemployment rate. So I think they didn't necessarily do this out of political motivation. They did it out of panic that we're headed into a recession, I think, which they're trying to head off. Now, that said, one of the best reasons for them to try to head off a recession is that Jay Powell thinks that Kamala would keep him on the job and Donald Trump would fire him. And, you don't want the economy to be in recession for the incumbent party. So, I mean, there may be a political overlay to this. But I think first and foremost, it's that they are panicking because of that rise in the unemployment rate.
If I remember my history correctly, I think that the Federal Reserve Act was actually passed in 1913 in one of those Christmas sessions where everybody's gone so that they could do the most dastardly of all deeds. And that continues to be a running theme with the U.S. Congress. But Phil, I'd like to talk to you about, let's prognosticate another future. Let's take Schrodinger's eponymous cat and put her in the box, but this time it's the Donald Trump campaign. We open up the box and the cat is alive. Hooray! It didn't die from the radiation that we put in the box or what have you. Laura Loomer didn't sink the Trump candidacy. And
well, when she got off the plane at front of the head of that debate, I said, this is not going to be a good debate.
Oh no. Yeah, it was not his best. But look, let's say that because of the economic indicators, because of the situation that the United States is in, the American people decide we don't want to trans the kids, that we do want school choice, that we do want to cut taxes and regulations. Elon Musk is kind of giving me the white pill over on X, and maybe he's being, he is a kind of a prankster, but he's given me the white pill in the sense that he's giving me hope that if he goes in and becomes the head of this government efficiency office that they're talking about right there, that they might actually do what Javier Milei is doing in Argentina, not what the more populist right is kind of advocating for necessarily, right? The more bigger government, progressive Republican take on the economy, but more of the Vivek Ramaswamy, Javier Milei, afuera, not like let's take the ring of power and use it for good, but let's take the ring of power and cast it into the fires of Mount Doom along with Gollum and all of the evil that goes along with it here. So what if you open the box and if Donald Trump's cat is alive, what do you see coming for our future? Is it a fuera or is it just Republican control of Democrat policies?
Well, I think one of the lessons that Trump learned from his first term is that it's very, very difficult to get a handle on the federal executive branch. And, I think there were so many things that he wanted to happen that did not happen because he didn't have control of his own government. And I think he knows that. And, I think the example that was most remarkable to me of this was when I went to the White House Schools Reopening Forum in June 2020, and I listened to the CDC head, Robert Redfield, give this whole speech about how every school needs to be open, and that's the most important thing, and that's CDC policy, and we would never advocate for any rules or guidance or restrictions that could result in kids sitting at home. And then I went on the CDC website and it basically said all the schools should be closed. And I said, I don't think this guy's running his own agency. I don't think he's got any control of his own agency. And I think there was a lot of that across the federal government. And I think that, in a second term, President Trump needs to be much more willing to say, hey, if this bureaucracy cannot be steered in a more productive direction, then it needs to just be eliminated. And I hope that he does go for closing a lot of these agencies completely and just saying, look, it can't be reformed, it can't be fixed. I've tried it. We put people in charge. They don't listen to the people in charge. We're going to send these people, we're going to fire them. And I think the Milei model is fantastic in this regard. And I'll tell you, if we do have Elon Musk put in charge of one of these commissions, everyone says, oh, there have been a million commissions, they never do anything. Here's the difference, okay? Every commission we've ever had before wanted to have a government job for life and to make itself important and to build its own bureaucracy on top of the other bureaucracies and be another layer of nonsense. He's got like 5 companies to run. He has no time to waste. If he comes in, it's going to be like, let me handle this as quickly as possible and get back out. And so I think the incentives would be very different. And I would be pretty optimistic that we might actually eliminate some things in that kind of scenario because if Trump gets back in, he's not going to be beholden to anyone in town, Republican or Democrat, really. And certainly none of the usual lobbyists, certainly none of the kind of the permanent interests. And so, if these agencies can't be fixed, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them can't be, maybe he would close some of them. I would love to see that. And, I'd love to, and I know that he's looking to have a fight over the legal arguments for impoundment and not spending all of the money that Congress appropriates. And, I don't know how the courts will come down on that, but if he wins that legal fight, he could do much more on spending than would otherwise be possible. And so, I don't want to get people too excited because we always get disappointed.
You're giving me the white pills, man. You're giving me the white pills, right? I don't want to be drinking the Kool-Aid, taking white pills thinking I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here when it comes to Trump. I want to manage my expectations, Phil, but he's also said things like he wants to abolish the Department of Education, which if he did that alone, that might be striking at the root of the base of some of our problems.
Every Republican since Reagan has said it.
I know.
I don't get too excited when they say it, but I sure would love to see it happen. And I don't think most people understand what the Department of Education now is. It's essentially a gigantic bank that runs all these student loan programs. All its other functions are tiny compared to that. And it's literally the worst run bank in the history of the world because they spend all their time trying to figure out how to lose money for taxpayers, how to not have people pay back the loans that they've given out. And so, I would love to see that place shut down, that loan portfolio sold off, the lending privatized going forward. And by the way, if we did that, college would become much less expensive, because the college administrators know now that if they jack up tuition, it's going to be taxpayers who pay most of the increase. So
I was
the
going to say,
incentives
Phil,
are
I
not
was going
there.
to say they can't have that. When you and I talk about prices dropping, you were talking about the price of gas dropping back then. You know, consumers, regular people were all like, "Oh yeah, right." But the people who run this joint are like, "Oh no, right?" I mean, you remember FDR and the New Deal, and they were burning wheat and corn that people were starving and hoping to be able to eat. And in the 1980s, Ben Darling, I think, was the head of the FDA, and they're destroying California oranges because they want to keep the prices high for farmers. I mean, we've been running on this progressive model of the economy since the early 1900s, and not even Reagan wanted to question the New Deal in his 1964 speech, Time for Choosing, for Barry Goldwater. So we got to get some Republicans with a little bit of backbone to stand up against the true rot of this country, which is economic socialism. Phil, you've been fighting this battle for a long time, and I'm grateful that you pulled your car over to stop to get your beautiful face on camera with us this morning. Thank you very much. We're a video podcast now. Americans are more reliant than ever on government aid, it says the Wall Street Journal. I know Phil probably has an opinion on that, but I want to give him an opportunity to share his point of view. If there's anything that you think we missed, Phil, that you would like to share with our audience or maybe plug, now is your opportunity.
Well, you know, we talked a lot about spending. The other half is regulatory policy. And it's not just the price controls we mentioned before, it's all kinds of regulation. I think the biggest one is probably Biden's electric vehicle mandates. And for people who don't know how extreme these are, model year 2027, which is really right around the corner, it's a year and a half from now, there's a 32% EV mandate that's currently in effect. So 32% of all model year 2027 vehicles sold in this country need to be electric vehicles, or the manufacturers get fined, they get punished, and so forth. So we're at about 10% now. The idea that we're going to triple in a year and a half without a lot of people not being able to get the car they want because there's going to be a shortage of internal combustion vehicles because of what they did, it's going to be a disaster. It's not a far off future thing. It's very near term. You're going to get the cars that 90% of people want. Only 68% of people are going to be able to get them. Prices are going to go haywire. And then it gets much worse every single year after that until they get to a full ban. We've got 11 states that have a full ban on internal combustion vehicles in 2035. The Biden path for the whole country follows that about 2 years later. They haven't shown past 2032, but it sort of follows the California schedule 2 years later. So you can assume the full ban is 2037. If you want the choice, and I have no problem with electric vehicles if you choose them, but if you want the choice to have an internal combustion vehicle, you've got to elect Trump, because Harris will keep those mandates on the books. And there are a million other regulations in a million other areas. They all add up to trillions of dollars. Total regulatory burden in the 3.5 years of Biden has increased by about $50,000 per household on a lifetime basis, which is to say just the new regulations that have come in under Biden cost the average household $50,000, you know, all in net present value of the whole future. But $50,000 is an enormous amount of money. And I think that one of the lessons is it'll be great to get Trump in because he was net deregulatory. But if the Democrats can come in and flip everything back like a switch and all the regulations are back on, we haven't really solved the problem. We're just sort of swinging in a pendulum. And so we really think we need to pass something like the REINS Act that would subject all new regulations to a vote in Congress. So at least we'd have a chance to stop the worst of them, even when Democrats are in. And when we don't stop them, we'd be able to look up who voted for them and hold them accountable come election time instead of everything flipping back and forth on the presidential. So we're going to have a major push on trying to fix regulatory process in the next administration in Congress. If it's favorable to that, if it's not, we're just going to keep beating the drum until it is. But the costs are staggering. It's almost as much as the costs of taxes and spending regulation now. It's about half as much, but it's getting up there, and so we really need to address it.
It's Phil Kerpen of American Commitment, and I'm so thankful to Rumble.com for choosing to feature us on the front page today. Now 1,700 people joining us live over on Rumble.com, and I imagine there could even be more over on X.com. And I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to share Phil's views with all of you. He is, again, the president of American Commitment. You can follow him at Kerpen, Kerpen, for more hot takes like those. Phil, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day and your schedule and being so generous with your time this morning. Have a great day.
My pleasure, Austin. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Let's give it up for Phil Kerpen. Show is live the Wake Up America show, and it's on the For Liberty Network, which launches officially today, forlibertynetwork.com. We've got so much exciting stuff and so many exciting announcements and so many exciting guests today. There's no way I'm going to be able to fit this all into a 2-hour show. I will do my best. We've got John Miltimore joining us live in a little bit less than 5 minutes. We're going to talk to him about two stories. One, which is the government, apparently more Americans than ever are reliant on government aid. And this other story, America's young men are falling even further behind. But first, before we get there, a quick announcement for those who have been asking for it for, I think since we started selling Founding Flavors coffee. But we now offer our delicious Founding Flavors coffee in pods. You get 12 pods in a box, and that price includes delivery. So head on over to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. You'll see our brand new Founding Flavors coffee pods available at the top of the website, but you can also go to the Founding Flavors collection and grab some other delicious coffee as well. Franklin's Electric Elixir has always been a top 3 for me. They're not flavored coffees, if they will, but each roast has its own unique flavor, and Electric Elixir just happens to be my favorite of the medium roasts. The light roasts also delicious, and we have 2 more brand new coffee pod boxes coming later this week. It's exciting. Today's For Liberty Network announcement. Also very exciting. We've got King Libertarian and Brian Piotr joining us at 8:30 a.m. to go through all the details of forlibertynetwork.com, our locals page, which houses all of our content. So if you want that information, come back at 8:30 if you have to go away. The Wake Up America shows John Miltimore, Mondays with Miltimore segment, coming up live in less than 5. So we'll be right back with John Miltimore on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty.
Tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
Unlocking today's bonus content on the Wake Up America show. Your financial contributions have aided in the launch of a brand new Liberty Network aimed at growing the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty in the United States. Today's bonus content asks, how much would an American-made toaster actually cost? Imagine walking into Home Depot to buy a toaster for $30. That's a typical price for an efficient, globally manufactured kitchen appliance, accessible to most Americans. It's a testament to modern trade efficiencies. In a recent article, Oren Cass argues for American-made goods, suggesting a slight price increase could benefit domestic workers. He proposes that a $32 American-made toaster would be a small price to pay for supporting local jobs and communities. However, Cass's argument is flawed. A mere 10% tariff on foreign toasters would only raise the price to $33, a minimal change. But Cass's vision assumes domestic manufacturers can match this price, which is unrealistic. Cass's hypothetical $32 toaster doesn't account for the complexities of redesigning supply chains for American production. In reality, American-made toasters would cost significantly more. Ed Gresser, an expert in trade, estimates the real cost at over $250 based on prices from other wealthy countries. Gresser's analysis reveals that producing toasters in high-income countries results in prices about 10 times higher than what American consumers currently pay. He highlights the economic impact such a shift would have on family budgets and the broader economy. Cass's essay is filled with economic fallacies, as further critiqued by Dominic Pino in National Review. The real question is whether America would benefit from a basic appliance becoming prohibitively expensive. Cass envisions benefits for American workers and firms, but this ignores the consumer base. In reality, the higher costs would burden consumers far more than any potential gains for domestic workers. When consumers clock out, they become part of the market affected by these price hikes. Most people wouldn't pay $300 for a toaster, when a $30 alternative works just as well. A recent poll by the Cato Institute illustrates this. While 62% initially supported a tariff on imported jeans to boost local jobs, that support plummeted when they learned it would raise prices by just $10. Imagine the outcry if prices increased tenfold, as would be the case for toasters. Cass and Sen J.D. Vance, who support similar ideas, likely recognize that the real numbers are unpalatable to most people. In conclusion, while the idea of supporting American manufacturing through slightly higher prices seems noble, the reality would be economically detrimental. Global trade efficiencies provide affordable goods, benefiting the majority of consumers.
Haunted by high prices and big government? Don't be a ghost of your former self this Halloween. We've got shirts that'll keep the ghouls and the government off your back. Inflation's scarier than any haunted house, but hey, why not turn it into a costume? Or how about our spooky government shirt? Guaranteed to spook anyone who's afraid of too much power. But if you're feeling real edgy, nothing says Halloween like our Michael Myers No Lives Matter shirt. Cause when it comes to big government, we all get slashed. At 4libertyshop.com, we believe in freedom, not fear. So grab your libertarian Halloween gear before the government takes an extra bite out of your wallet. Or your candy. 4libertyshop.com. Let's make Halloween tax-free.
Macron, fuck all globalists, fuck all these motherfucking globalists. They're trying to push a political and corrupt agenda. If you want about politics and economy, I advise you, read Why Democracy, the God That Failed Us, Hans Hermann Hoppe. And I hope you understand that democracy is a fallacy. Democracy is not the real government. So please read Hans Hoppe and understand why the world is going crazy like that today. Thank you so much, French. Fuck Macron.
Thank you so much, French. Good morning. Yeah, Rise and Freedom. 1,100 people joining us live over at rumble.com this morning. It's a great day to be alive. I'm really excited to announce the launch of the For Liberty Network. The Wake Up America show has been so successful thanks to Rumble and to locals and to so many of our friends who have financed the Wake Up America show through their purchases at the shop, your coffee buys and your t-shirt buys, all the merchandise that we've been able to invest in producing 2 brand new shows coming starting October 15th. Culturama with Daniela Pensac. And the Liberty Tonight boys will be here at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. You don't want to miss them. Brian Piotr and King Libertarian. King Libertarian? That doesn't make any sense. That will all be explained, and all shall be revealed to you at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. But first, you got to read Democracy, the God That Failed by Hans Hermann Hoppe. Joining us now is John Miltimore. He is the bastard stepchild of Hans Hermann Hoppe, joining us live. What's up, John?
Hey, good morning, AP. Great to be with you.
Hey, glad to have you here, man. So UFC fighter gets up there, says, "You must read Democracy, the God That Failed" by Hans Hermann Hoppe. And he's advocating for free market Austrian economics, and he's doing it in front of a crowd of millions. Not the most articulate way, but you know what? I don't care. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I want more people to find out about these ideas.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to see it. I still didn't catch the UFC fighter's name, but it is that UFC, there's a strong, vein there of people who are very pro-market, who are anti-socialist, and that really recognize the power of freedom and capitalism. So I love seeing that development in UFC for sure.
Yeah, well, we could use a little bit more freedom and capitalism here in the United States, where it shows on the Wall Street Journal this morning, Americans are more reliant than ever on government aid. Yeah, an aging population and economic distress raise dependence on federal and state support. Here's why that matters for the 2024 election, writes the Wall Street Journal. The support the Americans' reliance on government support is soaring, driven by programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Neither party really does have any incentive to curb the spending, do they, John?
No, I mean, I've said this before. The big difference between Democrats and Republicans is Democrats want to tax and spend us into oblivion, and Republicans just want to spend us into oblivion, right? Like they pretend we can do it without taxes. But just to go back for a minute about the democracy point is one, it's funny because I don't know when this happened. It feels like it's relatively recently, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. But it's pro-democracy, 2024, democracy. And, the thing people need to understand is democracy is kind of a means to an end. Democracy is good insofar as it tends to be better than some alternate forms of government, because if you're infringing on liberty, you can vote the bums out, right? And if that's all we mean by democracy is the people have the right to actually go vote and vote the people out that are doing a bad job, hey, there's something for that. But when you look at democracy, we don't really view it that way today. Like when we look at anything that the voters say gets to happen, well, that's insane. And like if we're voting, as long as you get 51% of the vote, you can take away everyone's rights. That form of government, I don't think anyone actually defends that. Even the people that like to scream, pro-democracy, they'll say, well, no, we can't simply, you can find, all these rights that they say shouldn't go away just because people vote for it. You can go back to ancient Greece and when things got out of control, and they would literally vote to ostracize you, to take you, you'd be exiled for 10 years if they thought you were a threat to democracy. And I think we're kind of reaching that point where democracy is just getting out of hand. Like where you get sort of like this mob mentality, and if you're a threat to democracy, we gotta silence you. We gotta take you away. Like you can't be part of the system, and that's really dangerous and pernicious stuff.
Absolutely, John, and couldn't agree more. When I look at our fellow citizens, though, so dependent on government aid, I'm looking at the chart that the Wall Street Journal has pulled up. The country hasn't always been this reliant on government support. In 1970, government safety net money accounted for significant income in fewer than 1% of America's counties. Now, the counties that are the poorest in this country are Appalachia, right? West Virginia, Kentucky, and even my home state here of Missouri in the southeast portion. The more rural it is, the more they are dependent on government needs. But this has been starting to spread out. By 2000, roughly 1 in 10 counties drew a significant share of their income from federal and state safety nets and social programs. Now, how this could affect the election this fall, I mean, nobody's really promising to cut and make any cuts to Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid, like a person who is being intellectually honest might do, but probably more people would concede that the Republican Party would be more likely to do something like that. So, does the fact that more Americans are dependent on government aid mean that they're probably going to be more likely to vote Democrat in the future?
There's some likelihood of that. Like it's been 20 years since the GOP actually tried something like this. I'm old enough to remember it because I was a low-level flunky in the Bush White House when they were kind of making a push to reform Social Security, and the amount of blowback from that was really astonishing. And Democrats, did a really good job of saying, exaggerating, the proposal, and that your Social Security is gone. It rattled Americans. This is how you get pulled into the system, right? This is how you keep the system. Like, you make people dependent on it. And I think that is a difference between, certain, you have the left and the right, and there's all the problems with talking about the left and the right because those things don't divide neatly. But I think there is a segment of the left that is they look at success as people on government aid. That they look at that as a good thing. And on the right, you have people like would say, no, getting people off government aid is a good thing. And again, there's exceptions to that. Like, not everyone sees it that way, but there is this mentality. I don't know how you can look at more and more people, on government aid and becoming dependent on the government as a good thing. But there are many people who see it that way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But when we look at, when we kind of zoom in to the microeconomy and we look at the actual people that it's impacting, what's interesting is that there is a gender imbalance in who is being left behind. Men in their 20s and early 30s are much more likely than their female peers to live with their parents. And many say they feel aimless and isolated. What is it about our American culture and society, John, that our young men now don't have drive, they don't have goals, they stay at home, they don't date? Like, the virginity rates have been skyrocketing, which should make social conservatives happy. But then social conservatives are upset because that also means that the birth rates are declining as well. So how do we square this circle, speaking specifically to the fact that this is not exclusively, but majority a problem of young men?
Yeah, I read that Wall Street Journal article you're talking about, and there's a lot there. And I think we got to recognize there's no single issue, but I think a lot of this comes back to that the university system has become a pretty hostile place to men. I really think this is part of it, that you have women going more and more to college, and men are just, young men are just saying they're not happy there. They're dropping out at higher rates. They're enrolling at lower rates. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I'm going to point to that article that you're talking about, and I'm going to read one thing to you. This is University of Maryland masculinity researcher Kevin Roy. And he wrote, this is a quote, until the past decade or so, quote, there was an assumption that men just needed to show up for their life and they'll get a job and have a family and be provided for because they're men. And I think that is just an obnoxious quote. And I don't think that is true in any sense. I mean, Austin, you're about my age. Do you remember there was always just an assumption you're a man and you're just going to be handed a job and a life and a family? Like, there was never an assumption to that. But you have all these people in universities who say that, and they believe that. And again, if you pushed him a little bit, he would say, well, no, I don't mean everyone. He's talking probably about white men, right? Because he'd concede, well, this is a very hostile place. America's been a hostile place for people of color. But if we're talking about strictly white men, they've always had these advantages. And this is the university system. It's packed with these arrogant people who they have this worldview and this hostility, where they see everything through the lens of privilege and power, and they see men, and particularly white men, as the enemy. And I think this has something to do with why men are like, to hell with this. Why am I here? Like this place is not a great place to be. And unfortunately, then, like, instead of going out and maybe going into entrepreneurship, you have young men that are just struggling. They're in mom and dad's basement. They're playing Fortnite or Call of Duty, and they're not taking on life like they need to. And this is a very serious problem. And I read that article with great sadness that so many young men, like they did a good job in that piece. They looked at numbers in 2004. They looked at numbers today, and the labor participation rate has just plummeted for this segment of young men. And then you got to ask yourself, what are they doing with themselves? And some are going to get it figured out, but many are not. And then to your point, you look at people that are dependent on government. That's where they're going to end up, right? They're going to end up finding a way to get on Social Security early, or they're going to be on the dole. They'll be collecting food stamps. This is not a healthy country. This is not a healthy development.
Absolutely correct, John. The problem that I have identified that's a bigger picture problem here is that in order for some of the solutions of this to be implemented, because so much of the progress that has been made by the quote unquote progress by the diversity hires, if you will, is that it has come at the expense of men like you and I. And that is why, to an extent, some of these men have decided to go their own way. They've decided not to participate in society because they see that they are just cattle, or they're just pack mules for the politicians and the parasite class who preys upon them and predates upon them to eat out the root of the substance of what they create or what they make or what they do of their gotten gains. And so the unfortunate reality is that if they really wanted to take it back, if they wanted to take back what's theirs to a certain extent, John, and not entirely, but to a certain extent, that would mean that resuming men's former glory to an extent in the United States would have to come at the expense of women and minorities. They would have to give something up to an extent, right? They would have to, if you equalized the number of men, if you wanted real equality and you had more men in colleges getting advanced degrees, at least on par with women, then to some extent, the scholarships, the seats, they come at it's a zero-sum game to a certain extent, not entirely, but when you're talking about the government, and you're talking about benefits and you're talking about academia, it is a zero-sum game, John. And isn't that the problem? How do you convince, in the United States, equality for women and minorities would be something of a step down, would it not?
I hesitate to say yes. I see what you're saying, like when you're saying like you have only a certain number of scholarships. You have only a certain number
of spots at a university.
Exactly, of seats, of chairs. But there's also, let's not pretend that this is a fixed pie, right? Like, and that's one of the beauties.
Not the economy, not the economy.
We can keep growing it,
but I'm not talking about that, John.
Yep,
I'm not talking about the infinite hand of the free market. I'm talking about specifically those government benefits which come at our expense to benefit women and minorities.
Yeah, I think to a certain degree what you're saying, yes, you only have certain spots. And there's this view that, these people would be taking those from people who need them more, right? And I think that mindset probably does play a factor in why these people are struggling. In fact, I know it does. I've seen people in my own life, whether it's older family members who feel like they just can't get ahead because, and maybe that's real, maybe not. But here's the danger. Do not embrace that kind of thinking. Right? Do not embrace the thinking like you're never going to get a chance because the job you want will be taken by a woman. Okay? Like no, you can't view life that way. Improve yourself, get the skills you want, chase your dream, and if it comes down to it, you're going to carve your own path. But the moment you start to embrace this mentality, like you're not going to just get it. It's like going back to the man, right? The man is going to keep you down. When you embrace that thinking, like I'm never going to get ahead because of the white man, or today's version of that, I'm never going to get ahead because these woke people won't give me a chance. That's going to lead you down a path of defeat, and don't embrace that thinking.
But it is the case, though, John, as you said, that in the zero-sum game world of government, that one person benefits, the other loses. I mean, how do you be a man, a masculine man, and take back what's yours because it's being taken from you in the first place? Because there are women who are being put into positions for the fact that they're a woman. Take a look at our Secret Service and how fantastic a job they've been doing lately, and then come to find out that they had a quota to try and meet 30% of their employees to be women, and then real lives are actually hanging in the balance of this kind of a thing. It's not just you get a master's degree, an underwater basket degree from some university, big deal, it goes to a chick, right? But we're actually talking about putting people into positions for their identity. And if we are going to take something like that back, John, you got to be real careful you don't venture into Groyper territory, right? Or, right-wing, progressive, right? Progressive Republican status. But I can kind of see, right, the argument to a certain extent. I mean, there has to be a form of masculinity, John, that is impervious to the feminine wiles, if you will. Not the He-Man women haters club, but to some extent, we have to stop taking women's shit when it comes to what it means to be a man, because there's something that has been lost in the American male. There's something about the American male's ethos. The cowboys are gone, John, and the very few that do remain are the ones that the women are all fighting over. And the rest of the men are out there and they can't get a date. They can't get a wife. They can't have a child. They're living at home with mom. How do we bring back that cowboy ethic without, turning into little Mussolinis?
No, and that's a fair question, but I think part of it is not succumbing to this idea that the male cowboy is dead, or that you know what? We're individuals. Be a cowboy, right? Be one. Like, we can be what we want to be. We don't have to be what society is pushing us to be. And if you look, this DEI stuff is already in full retreat. It's bad stuff. Oppose it, and I'll say yeah. But we can't lose. You can't lose something that wasn't yours to begin with, and that includes a job at a university that wasn't yours. They can. Hey, I get it. They have the power. They can hire who they want based on this crappy criteria that says, oh, we want to check the box for this. We're looking for a gay man, or we're looking for a woman, or we're looking for a person of a color, or BIPOC, or whatever the lingo is for it. That's not, that you can't control those things. Don't worry about those things. Be who you are. And if you want to be a cowboy, be a cowboy, right? And it doesn't mean you have to ride horses, but you don't live your life by what the system is telling you, or don't, if the system, like, I get it. We've heard this term for years, systemic racism, right? Well, we're actually seeing systemic racism when we see this, it's in the system. It says, well, sorry, you're the wrong color. We're not going to hire you. We want to hire this person. But the good part is all that stuff is in retreat. Like, the Supreme Court slapped it down last year at the Harvard case. You have Matt Walsh's new movie, which I went to a couple weeks ago, which is absolutely brilliant. It shows how stupid this movement is, and how nasty it is, and how it's really a grift. Right?
Yeah.
You have these people, these money
but
grabbers.
I don't want to take them for granted, and I don't want I think one of the big problems with the reason Napoleon lost Waterloo is because, or at least one of his battles that he won or lost, maybe it was Austerlitz. He was losing and then he was winning, and it's kind of like when the enemy, if you fail to give chase while the enemy is fleeing the field, sometimes that is a big mistake. Destroy the army that's on the field. But then sometimes it's like the Battle of Bunker Hill, and you actually are running up the hill and you realize that there's actually more guys on the other side, which is what we don't want to end up with in this fight for DEI. We don't want to get surprised and come around next year and Kamala Harris is in charge, and then DEI comes roaring back. So we've got to stay vigilant.
Don't think it's one. And it was Waterloo, because Napoleon won Austerlitz in brilliant fashion.
He won Austerlitz, but he lost Waterloo. But I think his challenge there was, I was trying to compare it to one of the Napoleonic battles I was reading recently, where it was like his big mistake was allowing the enemy to retreat and not pursuing and destroying them on the field. But I can't remember. Might have been a different battle. But I should stop pulling out Napoleon references at 8:26 a.m. Central Time. John, it's a little early for that. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners or plug before we let you go today, friend?
No, check out our content at aier.org. We'll have a number of great stories up there this week, and check out my own content, the Take by John Miltimore on Substack. I write there a lot, and some of the things I have fun. Not everything we talked about today is on there always, but like just showing how I got a good CIA piece coming up this week or I guess it's next month with the anniversary of the Kennedy assassination. So
here we go, John Miltimore. It's Mondays with Miltimore. What other shows are you going to hear Napoleon references, even if they are wrong, on the Wake Up America show? Hey, John, thanks for being so generous with your time. We appreciate you very much, sir.
Great to be with you, Austin. Have a good week, my friend.
Thank you very much. Speaking of testosterone loss.
Do you remember when we fell in love? I remember, don't worry. Do you remember? I remember how it all began. How could I ever forget? It's the first time. Do you remember? I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it coming in the air.
Okay, banging track, but Sarah Rose, who posted that video of the white dude for Harris dancing, says, "I've never been so dry in my life."
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Do you remember? Dad Bob Baboon. Thanks, AP. I just threw up in my mouth a little. Where else do you see great clips like this? The Wake Up America show is live, and we are now a network. It's not just one show. It's three. Uno, dos, tres. Uno, dos, tres, cuatros. Had it all matter about the For Liberty Network. Where the words you know, Liberty Network. Liberty Network. Liberty Network. Liberty Network. Liberty Network. Watch it now. Watch it. ForLibertyNetwork.com is the brand new project spearheaded by myself. This show, the Wake Up America show, will be live Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, just like always. But 2 new shows debuting October 15th, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Culturama and Liberty Tonight, of whom the 2 hosts will be joining us live in less than 5. Real quick, I just got to get to the plugs. Before they get there, the Wake Up America show's new For Liberty Network hosted on our Locals page. Thank you to Rumble and Locals for helping to make it happen. Thank you to you, all of the listeners and viewers, for being a part of helping us to make this new Liberty Media community. It's at ForLibertyNetwork.com. So make sure, if you're not a part of the Locals page yet, go to ForLibertyNetwork.com. Frankenbean76, thanks for the $10 tip-a-saw, and your name shall be written in the Pantheon. Can you imagine like a gold plaque that we put, or a brass plaque on the wall so we can save money? Fiscal conservatives, after all. And it says Frankenbeans76 on the wall. Wouldn't that be great? Let's do it. My plan is to one day build out a big production studio out at the family farm in Peculiar, Missouri, and produce movies and documentaries about Lysander Spooner and Ludwig von Mises and live podcasts. Let's make that dream happen, all right? Let's do it. It's time. Aren't you sick of these limp-wristed lefty libertarians like the guys who are running the LP right now, and all of the media libertarians just being these kind of greasy, squirrely guys who are like, they want to talk about like the weirdest stuff, but what if the child consents though? And you're just like, ugh.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Libertarianism needs a makeover here in the United States, and we are here to make it over. We're making liberty sexy again. We're making liberty great again. ForLibertyNetwork.com. 2 new shows. Mark it in your calendar. 7 to 9 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's Central Time for Culturama, the lovely Daniela Pensack. She's Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree. And Liberty Tonight with Brian Piotr and King Libertarian, and they're joining us live in less than 5. Do not go away. Click the like button. Go buy coffee from ForLibertyShop.com. Support the network that supports your American individual rights. Speech, guns, no soldiers in homes, unreasonable searches and seizures, cruel punishments, and more. The rest of the 10 Bill of Rights, but number 10 especially, and number 9.
For unlocking today's bonus content on the Wake Up America show. Your financial contributions have aided in the launch of a brand new Liberty Network aimed at growing the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty in the United States. Today's bonus content asks, how much would an American-made toaster actually cost? Imagine walking into Home Depot to buy a toaster for $30. That's a typical price for an efficient, globally manufactured kitchen appliance, accessible to most Americans. It's a testament to modern trade efficiencies. In a recent article, Oren Cass argues for American-made goods, suggesting a slight price increase could benefit domestic workers. He proposes that a $32 American-made toaster would be a small price to pay for supporting local jobs and communities. However, Cass's argument is flawed. A mere 10% tariff on foreign toasters would only raise the price to $33, a minimal change. But Cass's vision assumes domestic manufacturers can match this price, which is unrealistic. Cass's hypothetical $32 toaster doesn't account for the complexities of redesigning supply chains for American production. In reality, American-made toasters would cost significantly more. Ed Gresser, an expert in trade, estimates the real cost at over $250 based on prices from other wealthy countries. Gresser's analysis reveals that producing toasters in high-income countries results in prices about 10 times higher than what American consumers currently pay. He highlights the economic impact such a shift would have on family budgets and the broader economy. Cass's essay is filled with economic fallacies, as further critiqued by Dominic Pino in National Review. The real question is whether America would benefit from a basic appliance becoming prohibitively expensive. Cass envisions benefits for American workers and firms, but this ignores the consumer base. In reality, the higher costs would burden consumers far more than any potential gains for domestic workers. When consumers clock out, they become part of the market affected by these price hikes. Most people wouldn't pay $300 for a toaster, when a $30 alternative works just as well. A recent poll by the Cato Institute illustrates this. While 62% initially supported a tariff on imported jeans to boost local jobs, that support plummeted when they learned it would raise prices by just $10. Imagine the outcry if prices increased tenfold, as would be the case for toasters. Cass and Sen J.D. Vance, who support similar ideas, likely recognize that the real numbers are unpalatable to most people. In conclusion, while the idea of supporting American manufacturing through slightly higher prices seems noble, the reality would be economically detrimental. Global trade efficiencies provide affordable goods, benefiting the majority of consumers.
Tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
Years ago, we started this journey together, bringing you the Wake Up America show every morning. I couldn't have done it without my incredible wife, Steffi, who's always by my side, and now our beautiful baby, Hazel, who's already getting used to studio life, waiting patiently during Freedom Family Fridays. What truly makes this show special is you. Your donations, your purchases from forlibertyshop.com. You're not just supporters, you're family. Together we've built something amazing, and we're just getting started. Thank you for being a part of our family. Here's to many more years of Wake Up America.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests.
She let in, and that's not even mentioning the rapists, the gang members, the drug dealers, the child predators, and the traffickers in women, mostly women. Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. She was born that way.
Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. The Wake Up America show is now a triumvirate. One of three brand new shows on the For Liberty Network at forlibertynetwork.com. We've got two exciting new shows launching October 15th and 17th. Culturama, starring Daniela Pensack, which you've been seeing the trailer for this morning. And I figured let's get the guys on, the boys from Liberty Tonight, joining us live right now this morning. Brian Piotr and King Libertarian. Give them a round of applause. What's up, boys?
Thanks for having us.
Let's go.
Good morning. So Kamala Harris, retarded for life, Brian?
Yeah, or just reading the script. You know, they needed somebody with at least the IQ to read a teleprompter, and they got one. So that's an improvement over the previous and current president. So they're moving up in the world. They're getting better and better.
Hey, King Libertarian, if Kamala Harris gets elected, at least in one good ways, there's going to be plenty of material for you to run on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to work on my cackle because I would love to do a good Kamala impression. You know, Brian and Austin. Yeah, it's
pretty
endless.
good. That's pretty good.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, working on it. Working on it.
So we've been working on this for a while, Brian. You are known as the lone libertarian who voted for Donald Trump at the Libertarian National Convention. He has balls of iron, and he carries them in a wheelbarrow in front of him. He had the guts to stand up to the libertarians and to tell them that they should be putting Donald Trump on their ballot line. They didn't listen to you, sadly, Brian, but it's been a really exciting year for you politically. I mean, how are you feeling about the upcoming new show?
I'm feeling really good about it, especially since our competition is doing dancing vaccine propaganda. You know, it used to be that the Tonight Show was about entertainment and beautiful people, maybe some background track for, you know, getting it on with your spouse. And now it's just a bunch of woke propaganda. And we have a void there that no one here watching this show, you know, has anything to watch. And so our intention is to deliver that for you. You know, we're here to entertain you, not propagandize you about why there are a million genders and why you need the 15th booster. You know, we're going to make you laugh. We're going to give you something to watch that you actually want to watch.
In other words, we're going to take all the testosterone that John Basura, that actor guy, is no longer taking, and we're going to inject it into you through our show. So that's just how
there
this
you go.
work.
So that's the only jab you'll get, the jabs that they take. We're glad to have our guests today, Brian Piotr and King Libertarian, for the announcement of the new For Liberty Network launch at forlibertynetwork.com. Make sure that you're following their Rumble page as well at rumble.com/liberty tonight. On October 17th at 9 p.m. Central Time, their show will launch, and you definitely want to make sure that you do not miss it. And of course, Culturama will lead into their show right before that one. So what kind of segments should we expect from you guys? I mean, I've been watching some of the previews. They've been pretty hilarious. But how are you going to craft your content? What are you going to take aim at? And what do you guys can you give us some of the behind the scenes stuff on what you've been working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a gaggle of laughs, a cacophony of cackles, and overall a good time. So this is not going to be like anything that you've seen right now. It's not going to be two autistic libertarians screaming at each other about the philosophy. Even though we'll have some in there, right? But this is going to be the only late night liberty aligned show there is. So we wanted to bring something new, fresh, original, and more than anything, we wanted to take something away from the liberals, right? They had a stronghold on the late night comedy scene for forever. So Jon Stewart, move aside. Here we come.
Here we go. That's the attitude I want to hear. King Libertarian speaking here with us today. Hey, Brian, so I do this 5 days a week, right? I produce this show, do it myself, perform it, right? Monetize it, do all this kind of stuff. Were you kind of surprised at first when I started showing you all these bells and whistles, just kind of how complicated it is to run a show, and you're going to do it once a week at just kind of like the sort of massive technical hurdle, because we decided not to just do two guys screaming at each other autistically in a microphone, that we've sort of like produced this thing. I mean, it's been a big challenge, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with offline editing and creating videos. When you shoot something together and the quality's terrible, and then you have as much time as you want to produce it into good quality content, and having it be good quality at the moment when you're live streaming, totally different, next level, had a huge learning curve, but we're doing pretty good. And I think that we're going to give you a really high quality show to watch. And it's going to only get better.
My favorite things that I've been watching of you guys as you've been in rehearsals are the fake celebrity impressions, which I can't give away too many details because I'm hoping we actually get to see it in some form in the real show. But I guess fake Eminem made an appearance in the last show that you guys, the last rehearsals. So I'm guessing that we're going to get to meet all of our heroes: Mark Cuban impressions, Eminem impressions. Any other celebrities that you plan on fake interviewing, King Libertarian?
Of course, the one and only Donald Trump. He will be there. It'll be fantastic. Maybe, probably, but we'll see.
From now on, it's going to be America first. Okay?
On
America
Liberty
first.
Tonight. Thanks so much to everybody for tuning in live for the announcement of the For Liberty Network. Now, I've got Brian P. Otter and King Libertarian on, and they're giving us a sneak preview of what's to come on their brand new show on the For Liberty Network that's launching October 17th at 9 p.m. Central Time. So now's a great time to open up your calendar and to set your notifications to stun so that you are ready to watch the show at rumble.com/Liberty Tonight. You can also watch it at forlibertynetwork.com. It'll be available on all the other social networks as well, but I'm very glad and grateful to rumble.com and Locals for giving us the platform that we need to be able to get our ideas out, entertain and inform people, because let's face it, Brian, YouTube and, I shouldn't even say their name, YouTube and many of these other social networks, they would never allow a show like yours to exist on YouTube for very long. I mean, thank God for Rumble. Thank God for Locals. If we didn't have this alternative economy, Brian, as we libertarians are always talking about, alternative ecosystem, we'd be screwed, wouldn't we?
The jokes that we're going to make are going to get us banned off YouTube.
Yes.
It's going to happen. Might as well not bother. So go straight to Rumble and X with everything. And I want to include everyone who's watching the show right now. We don't have a team of writers, but you can also help be a collaboration and a writer with us. So we're only as good as our ideas. And if we have all the ideas from the viewers, we can create a wonderful, hilarious show. So send me every idea you have for a funny skit or a funny call-in or whatever you want so that we can come up with the best thing for you to watch.
So, King Libertarian, you've got a great character over there, and you're going to be doing a lot of celebrity impressions and things like that. What else are you really looking forward to for the new show? Not just content-wise, but are you excited about making new friends and bringing in people into your circle? Like, what are your hopes and dreams and goals for the show?
Well, my hope and dream for the show is in some way to be a vanguard for our rights. I one day hope that John Kerry, the Lurch, the billionaire, the heiress to the Heinz fortune, will one day see that I told him to suck it, and there's nothing he can do about it because we have our First Amendment, which he hates. And so that's the one thing. But yeah, absolutely, I would love to connect with more people in the ecosystem and really come onto the scene with a big splash.
Absolutely, a big splash, and we are going to make it at forlibertynetwork.com. If you like to follow the boys, make sure you do so at forlibertynetwork.com, or you can visit their Rumble page directly at Liberty Tonight. So rumble.com/Liberty Tonight is a great place for you to go if you want to make sure that you get the updates on what's going to happen with the brand new network launch. And of course, Culturama will lead into it. Brian, I got a clip for you here from our former not president that I'd like you to react to, if you wouldn't mind. Take a listen.
The press needs a consistent the press that's not supporting Trump blatantly, very persistently, the press that's trying to be the press, be objective, be, reporting the facts. The press needs a consistent narrative about the danger that Trump poses.
Brian, a consistent narrative from the media? No.
Man, she sounds like a crotchety old has-been, doesn't she? At this point.
Oh, she's bitter. She's bitter. More bitter than I was at losing the nomination to Gary Johnson.
This is the same slab of meat that was thrown into a van on 9/11 in 2016. This lady used to have power. She used to have a multi-billion-dollar charity that obviously did wonderful things for the country of Haiti, and now she's a nobody. I don't know why I care about her opinion. I don't think anybody in power cares about her opinion anymore either, and it must hurt a little bit. The power structure used to be the Clintons. They used to make or break you. She used to be able to end your career. Can she even do that for a congressman anymore? Should she have any power inside of the DNC anymore? I hope that she's gone and gone for good.
Your take, Your Highness?
We need to ensure that the Democrats are corrupt. We need to ensure that the media is biased, and we need to ensure that the corporations screw us over at any time. We need to ensure these things because they are currently happening, and they always have, and they always will, but we need them to do it more. So that's what I'm saying is nothing at all and everything at the same time. Thank you so much.
There you go. That's Hillary Clinton joining us live on the For Liberty Network. Go ahead, Brian. You want to say something?
Oh, I'm just glad that the Clintons are gone. Next up on the docket, we need to take out the Obamas, and then whoever it is that's going to run the DNC after that. They can't stand up to truth. So once their media apparatus is dead, which is not yet, but it's on the way, it's going there. We have a chance to have a real majority in this country for a long, several decades. We're winning on the demographics front. That's why they're importing all these immigrants. If we can get Trump in, deport the immigrants, and then all of the right-wing libertarians, conservatives have lots of babies, we win in the long run. That's the long run. We're just in a battle in the short term.
So have babies, don't kill them.
Guess who's the top 3 podcasts? It's Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, and the Hawk Tuah girl. Like we're winning. Like a girl who was funny once is now the 3rd largest podcast in the world. Like anything's possible.
All right, guys, well, we're getting towards the end of the program. Anything else that you want to share before we go? We'll start with you, Your Highness, and we'll finish with Brian.
Please join us here in the coming weeks. We're going to have a lot of fun. King Libertarian on X, @King Libertarian. Give me a follow.
Send me your ideas directly on X @BrianPiotr. I'll respond to every single one. I look forward to meeting you, talking to you online. Welcome all the anonymous fans or haters that are out there.
There we go. 2 more weeks of rehearsals until the premiere of Liberty Tonight, the 17th of October. Set your schedule, calendar, whatever you may have to join them at Liberty Tonight, rumble.com/Liberty Tonight on the For Liberty Network. Thanks, boys. We'll see you guys here real soon, okay? What do you guys think? Brian and the King. We got lots of surprises cooked up for you. I've been watching their rehearsals, and they're very funny. I hope that you guys will tune in and enjoy it. What a beautiful day. The Wake Up America show announces the launch of our new For Liberty Network. And almost as a side note, our coffee that everybody's been asking for in pod form is finally available at forlibertyshop.com. So today, as you exit the show, sad music, yes. Make sure you exit through the Griff Shop at forlibertyshop.com. Help support the growth of the For Liberty Network. forlibertynetwork.com is monetized in large part due to, the purchases of coffee and merchandise at forlibertyshop.com. So everything is growing. The industry is building. We're starting to put together all the bricks and mortar that we need to have, bricks and mortar, right? The Wake Up America show is on the way up, as well as the 2 new shows, Culturama and Liberty Tonight. October 15th, Culturama, 7 to 9 p.m. Central. You don't want to miss that show. Thursdays, 7 to 9, Culturama, and then 9 to 11, Liberty Tonight. You got a lot of podcast watching to do. But you can support the entire venture if you just head over to forlibertynetwork.com, become a monthly subscriber there to our locals page, or you can also go to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support, become a monthly sustaining member. You can also become a monthly coffee subscriber, and all of these contributions financially are helping us to grow the Liberty Network, to spread the Liberty message and to do it while not being freaks and weirdos. Well, a little bit freaky and a little bit weird, but, not too much. You know what I mean? Right? Not in a way that...
But it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
That's right. Commie gobbledygook. Not here on the Wake Up America show. Not here on the For Liberty Network. We're the best. You're the best around. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down. You're the best around. That's right. Bow to your sensei.
Bow to your sensei!
That's right. The For Liberty shop is part of the For Liberty network. So make sure you, again, exit through the Grift shop. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Is there anything else we need to know? Anything else you guys are excited about? Right? Oh, gosh. I don't know what else I could possibly announce. I mean, the show just flew by and I didn't even get to like 4 or 5 of the other clips and articles that I had. I guess I'll have to share them with you tomorrow. So you're going to come right back here, 7 a.m. Central Time on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network at forlibertynetwork.com. Bye, guys.
Unlocking today's bonus content on the Wake Up America show. Your financial contributions have aided in the launch of a brand new Liberty Network aimed at growing the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty in the United States. Today's bonus content asks, how much would an American-made toaster actually cost? Imagine walking into Home Depot to buy a toaster for $30. That's a typical price for an efficient, globally manufactured kitchen appliance, accessible to most Americans. It's a testament to modern trade efficiencies. In a recent article, Oren Cass argues for American-made goods, suggesting a slight price increase could benefit domestic workers. He proposes that a $32 American-made toaster would be a small price to pay for supporting local jobs and communities. However, Cass's argument is flawed. A mere 10% tariff on foreign toasters would only raise the price to $33, a minimal change. But Cass's vision assumes domestic manufacturers can match this price, which is unrealistic. Cass's hypothetical $32 toaster doesn't account for the complexities of redesigning supply chains for American production. In reality, American-made toasters would cost significantly more. Ed Gresser, an expert in trade, estimates the real cost at over $250 based on prices from other wealthy countries. Gresser's analysis reveals that producing toasters in high-income countries results in prices about 10 times higher than what American consumers currently pay. He highlights the economic impact such a shift would have on family budgets and the broader economy. Cass's essay is filled with economic fallacies, as further critiqued by Dominic Pino in National Review. The real question is whether America would benefit from a basic appliance becoming prohibitively expensive. Cass envisions benefits for American workers and firms, but this ignores the consumer base. In reality, the higher costs would burden consumers far more than any potential gains for domestic workers. When consumers clock out, they become part of the market affected by these price hikes. Most people wouldn't pay $300 for a toaster, when a $30 alternative works just as well. A recent poll by the Cato Institute illustrates this. While 62% initially supported a tariff on imported jeans to boost local jobs, that support plummeted when they learned it would raise prices by just $10. Imagine the outcry if prices increased tenfold, as would be the case for toasters. Cass and Sen J.D. Vance, who support similar ideas, likely recognize that the real numbers are unpalatable to most people. In conclusion, while the idea of supporting American manufacturing through slightly higher prices seems noble, the reality would be economically detrimental. Global trade efficiencies provide affordable goods, benefiting the majority of consumers.
Tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
Haunted by high prices and big government? Don't be a ghost of your former self this Halloween. We've got shirts that'll keep the ghouls and the government off your back. Inflation's scarier than any haunted house. But hey, why not turn it into a costume? Or how about our spooky government shirt, guaranteed to spook anyone who's afraid of too much power? But if you're feeling real edgy, nothing says Halloween like our Michael Myers No Lives Matter shirt. Cause when it comes to big government, we all get slashed. At 4libertyshop.com, we believe in freedom, not fear. So grab your libertarian Halloween gear before the government takes an extra bite out of your wallet. Or your candy. 4libertyshop.com. Let's make Halloween tax-free.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.